Bentley at the 1. Bentley has an angle, and he's got just the kicker to beat. Bentley at the 30, the 25, the 15, a 99-yard kickoff return.
Over the top. Oh, stuffed by Bertrand. Yikes.
Now it's time for Illini Drive, your home on the way home for Illini sports every Monday at 6. Only on Champagne's Alternative, WPGU 107.1 FM.
Joey Gelman, host, Chicago, Illinois.
Steve Bourbon, co-host, St. Charles, Illinois.
Sam Sherman, co-host, Wilmette, Illinois.
Jeff Omer, social media guru, Naperville, Illinois.
Torrance Surreal, producer, Shy City, baby.
Welcome in to Illini Drive on WPGU 107.1 and Urbana Public Television. This is your home on the way home for Illini sports, and boy, do we have a lot to talk about today. First, please remember to tweet at Illini Drive for suggestions during the show, as well as voicing your opinion on the topics we are discussing today. Text line is once again up and running. Jeff Omer will be monitoring that the rest of the show. It's 414-533-7483. 414-53-7483 or 53-DRIVE is the end of that phone number. Today, I'm going to break down Illinois football. Another win this past weekend over Western Kentucky around 6:25. Torrance Surreal and Stephen Bourbon got a chance to catch up with Illini wide receiver Justin Hardee, so we will bring you that interview around that time as well, and then we'll discuss the national news and notes, particularly surrounding the Ray Rice news today. So, Mondays. Always a drag, a slow start to the week, but today, when you look at the list of topics, I know we're going to start with Illinois football, and I wish we had 8 hours to talk about all this today, but you have release and suspension of Ray Rice after the new video services from TMZ. Penn State's now suddenly bowl eligible, gets their scholarships back. Atlanta Hawks controlling owner Bruce Levinson to sell the team after racially insensitive tweets. Jalen Brunson to announce his recruiting and decision where he's going to go to college on Wednesday, and oh yeah, football was back this weekend. The Bears played and everyone else. So a lot to cover today. But first, let's start with football. Illinois wins this weekend, puts up 42 points on Western Kentucky. And first and foremost, let's discuss just overall thoughts again. Another pretty good performance from the offense, especially with Wes Lunt.
Yeah, the Illini, kind of similar to last week. They played with fire a little bit. They waited till the fourth quarter to kind of get going, but Lunt threw for 454. And they put up it'h points to win. I think the offense did look better. Still no running game, which I'm not sure that's entirely a concern, but it'd be nice to have against a Western Kentucky team that you should be able to kind of blow off the ball. But kind of similar to the week before, starting slow and then ending quickly.
Yeah, I mean another very nice fourth quarter performance for a lot of aspects of Illinois football. But Stephen, I actually had a question for you because last week we had an interesting little debate, if you want to say. I'm sure you guys remember this, about the Illinois defense, and you were pretty adamant about the fact that the defense was gonna do nothing essentially, and that we'd lose to.
I never said they would lose.
I thought you did.
I said I specifically hedged and didn't say they would lose.
All right, that's my bad. But you didn't have a lot of confidence in the defense.
I still don't.
We'll get to that. But did you not see an improvement?
There was an improvement because they forced 3 turnovers. But, they still gave up 34 points to Western Kentucky.
All I'm saying is...
They're better, but they were so bad last year, that's not saying a whole lot.
I am buying this defense. And I know that's a bold statement. And we'll talk about it, I guess, as the show goes on. And, I'll give my reasons why. But I love the 3 turnovers. I like that they had some big stops in the game. And that, to me, the offense we knew kind of was going to be there. But just to see any kind of defense was a nice confidence boost for this team. And for Illini fans, I think a breath of fresh air, at least from last year's mess of a defense that they had.
The point I will give you is they should continue to get better, even though the games will get tougher. Because they're still missing a lot of key parts. Kenny Nelson, a lot of people predicted a breakout year for him. He's been out. They would kind of rely on Jihad Ward a lot, putting a lot on his plate early. Also, Jalen Dunlap has been out. No real timetable for when he comes back. So they've only been able to play 3 corners. And they've only been playing 2 safeties. Mike Svatina is out for until Big Ten play at least, that foot injury. So, when they get some of these pieces back, they could, continue to get better. But the thing they've had last week, 2 days ago, that they hadn't had in 2 years, it seems like, was a good pass rush. I mean, with guys like Jihad Ward, Carroll Phillips, I'll buy Carroll Phillips stock.
You did,
right
yes.
They're able to get pressure, and then that's how you force turnovers. Rushing throws, getting sacks, getting fumbles, however it is. It all kind of starts up front, and that is definitely, they're going to have a much higher ceiling this year than last year just because of the players they have.
Jihad Ward, as you guys saw, put a hit on a running back. Was that Leon Allen that he hit?
Yeah.
That was that was something. That was, yeah. And if that happened to any one of us, we wouldn't be on the show today. We'd be most like maybe in the hospital, maybe elsewhere. But that was like a big hit, and that's the kind of stuff that we just didn't really see last year. Those real those real kind of statement hits. There's probably a better word for it. And it was stuff like that was kind of gave me confidence that as this defense grows, even if it's not this year that we're going to see any kind of great defense, that it might be in the future.
And I like when you see that kind of presence from a guy like Jihad Ward on the outside ends in this defense. But my concern still is you have to get that pressure from the middle guys in Teitzma and Tico Powell. And you see flashes of it. We talked to Austin last week, and he couldn't be any more fun, and is kind of that ferocious guy in the middle. But once again, while I see a little bit of the improvements, like you've mentioned, on the pass side of the defense in terms of Taylor Barton with a good interception this weekend, they've covered pretty well in the passing game. But the rush defense still is what worries me. And you have another week here, over 100 yards again for a running back with Leon Allen.
In the first half.
Right. So, granted, they made adjustments in that second half, but there's still that issue of something's going on in the middle of that defense where they're not able to get through. And, playing a team like Western Kentucky, who is a pretty good offense. Let's not put that comment away. They are a potent offense, but when you go into a game, I know we'll talk about it later with Washington and who have you next week when you get into Big Ten play, you've got to find a way to stop that run, because then you make a team one-dimensional, and they're still allowing a lot of yards in that category.
And that's only become more and more of a challenge when you get into Big Ten play.
Right.
When you get Wisconsin coming here, Ohio State, they've always, I'm sure they'll dig up some 5-star or something to play a running back. But I definitely agree with that point in the rushing game. The stats didn't end up being too gaudy just because the defense wasn't on the field the whole third quarter. I think Western Kentucky had 13 yards but scored 10 points because of Illini turnovers. But I know you're all in, Sam, but I need to see more. They're definitely better. I will give you that they're better, but I still don't think this is a good defense.
Hey, let's agree on one thing. If we didn't play the Big Ten and we just could play non-conference games all year, maybe this is a average defense.
If they were in Conference USA, they could compete. Yeah.
Ball game.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then looking here at offense, and I know we'll just shift gears. Again, Wes Lunt, a good ball game. I saw your tweet or Instagram
Who is
picture.
That?
Who is who? Wes
Lunt,
Lunt, the quarterback of
the Illinois.
University
Yes.
of Illinois,
Okay.
Fighting Illini.
I don't know.
I'm surprised you don't know who that is. You had just a big grin on your face.
Yeah.
Beginning of the
I
show.
know who he is. I'm a
He's
fan.
got a shrine in his room. It's the West Point.
You worship him.
We're supposed to be media and impartial in certain categories, and boy, if you look at Sam, it's literally, he's married to Wes Lunt over here. And granted, there's good reason to do so. He's been playing really well. But I guess, for you, what have you seen from him that's really elevated this offense to where it has been the past 2 weeks? Just like there's a lot more confidence. I know someone mentioned that the other day, that this team, and both sides of the ball, especially offensively, though, when they go down, they're not going to just sit down and let it go past and say, oh, this game's over, another loss on Beckman's record, another loss on ours. They say, no, we can come back and get in this game, and have done it 2 weeks in a row in fourth quarter offensive explosions.
You touched on it right there. It's that kind of, it gives the team that hope that we have a guy who can, go out there and make some really impressive throws. But what was sort of seen in his first 2 games as an Illinois QB is that he's putting up these big numbers and he's doing some impressive things. But in terms of like the eye test, it's still a little strange, at least to me. I don't know if you guys got the same feeling, but it's like he's not doing any, or like certain things that he does are impressive, but then he's not doing anything like throughout an entire span of, maybe a drive or something like that, take away the fourth quarter, where, you then look at the numbers after and it doesn't seem to like correlate. And I think we've been talking about a little bit that's like something, he's been great, but something still seems to be like, and I don't know what it is, and we could talk about this, but like something seems to be missing in terms of what, everything together, and maybe you want to talk about it.
Yeah, I just think it's just they lost a lot of corporate knowledge last year on offense, and it just takes time. I mean, I talked to Cubitt today, and he said they haven't been able to go as up tempo as they like, just because it takes longer to get the play in, to get these new wide receivers in. I think week one, they were trying to go up tempo. The receivers are looking to the sideline for the play, and they're handing off the ball. So I mean, it'll get better as it goes on. They're just not in sync yet, which is a little scary, because when you're putting up 450 passing yards, when you're not in sync, I mean, what happens when they get in a rhythm and they get going? And the thing I liked from Lunt a couple days ago was, outside of one throw in the third quarter that he got picked off on, he was very patient and didn't force a whole lot. I thought in the first week and in the spring game too, he tried to make every throw and get the ball down the field, but against Western Kentucky, he took a lot of short throws, safe throws, and we were able to drive down the field. And then, that was our best drive before Malik Turner got ripped and fumbled. But that was our best drive all the way down the field, just short completions, safe completions, and you were able to go down the field. That's when he's going to be successful, is when he takes what they give you and not try and hit the home run every time.
We talking about wide receivers, man. What about my boy Mikey Dudek? Mikey, my boy, right there.
I mean, we could talk for a while about Mikey Dudek, and I think with him, just before we get all into the Dudek train, which we're all going to want to be a part of. I mean, I thought just another thing is, if you look at the stat sheet, he's throwing to everybody. And that's really impressive, because it's a lot of young guys, it's a lot of new guys in the system, and you said that, it's only going to get better. But I mean, that's what was really impressive to me, is that he's distributing the ball, and he's not just, it's not just one throw to a guy and then like 7 to another and 2 to another. I mean, he's pretty balanced with that. And I mean, we've seen his kind of trying to find those go-to guys, but I don't really think, and we did talk about go-to guys last year and how that might not even be a thing this year. And I think that's maybe a good thing, actually, because he's sort of getting everyone involved. And whereas last year was a lot, it was like the Steve Hull party, and that carried him for a little bit. But this year they've got a lot of different weapons to use, and Lunt's showing them off.
No, I wrote that down before the show specifically. Allison 97 yards, Hardee 110 with a touchdown, Turner 56, not the greatest numbers, but then Dudek 55 and got that touchdown recovery. Martez Barr 46 yards, another touchdown for him. So you like to see that, just spreading the ball around, one, because it puts a lot of less pressure on a couple of your guys, but it gets the other young guys much more confidence. When you have a lot of guys leave the program like they've had, wide receiver-wise, and losing a guy like Langford and the rest of that receiving core, and you bring in a whole new group, that's a big challenge. So if you can get their confidence up early, especially with a quarterback that's going to be here for a while as only a sophomore in athletic years, it's really nice to see that. If that can grow, boy, oh boy, you're looking at some fun offensive numbers that you hope they translate when you play these top Big Ten teams.
Well, it's just so hard to defend, and Sam, you're going to love this. Watch Peyton Manning play. He throws it to everyone on the field. Everyone's an option, and that's what I think Cubitt wants to do. And so if you get everyone involved, if all 5 eligibles are an actual option, an actual threat, that puts so much pressure on a defense. It's not like, Illinois, my freshman year in 2011, it was, A.J. Jenkins is covered. Guess we'll run, I mean, that was the offense. It was A.J. Jenkins or, take a sack, pretty much.
I mean, and one of those guys that has been brought up, obviously, is Mikey Dudek. And Mikey, he doesn't go by Mike here.
Mikey?
He came here as Mikey.
And he's the guy. I have a feeling about Mikey Dudek, and it's not only that he's going to be good, as I think a lot of people already have seen, but I think he's going to be a guy that opposing teams for the next 4 years, or 3 and change, are going to really grow to dislike to having to play. Because he just, we saw that there was a fumble in the end zone that he dove in and created the touchdown there. I guess if you want to say that. He's kind of that, like, this word is just so thrown around. He's kind of scrappy, but he's talented, and he's and he's the kind of guy that I think is really going to anger opposing fan bases just because of certain catches that he makes and looks like he shouldn't be making.
And just look at the one catch he made. It was early in the game. He caught it and just made a guy miss in the open field. I mean, he definitely has some athleticism. We saw him week 1 go up and get a ball down the sidelines. Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. I think he should be good.
We talked about it before, and real quick, because we got to go to a break, about Dane Sanzenbacher in Ohio State. It's kind of that similar idea of, okay, he's a small little guy, but boy, he's making a lot of plays and really a reliable guy for your quarterback here at Illinois that you can kind of see maybe grow together. Well, we're going to take a quick break here. Right after this break, we will bring you the interview that Torrance and Steven did with Illini wide receiver Justin Hardee, who had 110 yards and a touchdown this weekend. You're listening to Illini Drive on WPGU 107.1.
Hi, this is Terry Boris from The Score, and you want to know what my guilty pleasure is? I love Illini Drive.
Welcome back into Illini Drive, and we're going to send you to Torrance Sorrell and Steve Bourbon's interview with Illini wide receiver Justin Hardee, who had a pretty good weekend, and his thoughts on the game and looking ahead to Washington.
Hello, everyone, and we're back on Illini Drive. I'm Torrance Sorrell alongside my colleague Steve Bourbon, and we're here with Justin Hardee. Justin, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. How you doing, sir?
All right, so just pretty much, you guys played Western Kentucky last week. Just first question, just what are your reaction from the game? What do you take away from it?
I'm glad to get a win in the worst way. I would take any win, but just the team got to get better to get ready for Washington. Can't really think about Western Kentucky going to the next.
Now, I know you played a similar team. You played Louisiana Tech your freshman year, and you had a pretty big game. So I guess how do you compare this Western Kentucky team to that of Louisiana Tech offensively?
It was actually Charleston Southern, but I would say I would feel much more confident, actually feel older, and just really just out there having fun with my brothers and just being accountable for all my actions.
No, you're kind of the old guy now. All the seniors left. I mean, what's that been like with kind of all new receivers around you?
It's been fun just because I get to learn from them, and those guys get to learn from me. And I know wherever I go, whatever I do, I have someone watching. So it definitely just makes me more responsible as a person. Being able to help those guys make me feel so much better.
And your touchdown, 62-yard touchdown, I guess kind of take me through from your angle, kind of how that play went down.
Well, I seen read the coverage as the play was called. Once I got out of my break, I seen the middle of the field open, and I would just about take myself over anybody when it's a foot race. So once I seen it was open and I knew the guy was behind me, I seen daylight, and I just try to turn the extra gear.
The seas kind of just parted for you. I mean, there was just no one like right in the middle there.
Yeah, definitely something that I did while in high school. I ran track. Our coach always used to tell us to open it up. So I just tried to open the gate up from me and the defender.
And just going back to what Beckman said, I know you said you ran track in high school. Position change, he said you came in as a defensive when you first came in. How was the transition, playing offense?
Well, I played offense while in high school, so it really wasn't that big of a deal. It really wasn't like I was learning something new. I pretty much knew what to do. Was kind of a little shaky about it at first because I wanted to play defense. But then once I got the hang of it and just start being around those group of seniors that you guys just talked about, made it so much more fun, I'd rather say.
Right.
I would just say it was just, it's great just because I learned a lot from it every day and I continue to just get better.
And just being the elder statesman kind of on wide receiver group now, what do you think of those younger guys like a Dudek or Allison coming in and kind of putting in work?
Those guys are great. Love going to work with those guys every day. Like Mikey Dudek just won Big Ten Freshman of the Week. That's huge. I congratulate him. And that's one of the guys I actually took up under my wing and told him whatever he needed, I got him. I even talked to his parents, got a relationship with his parents. And Allison doing great. Those guys came in way better prepared than expected, of course. And then Malik Turner, a young guy who's still learning, but still also a big-time playmaker.
Mikey, dude. Everyone calls him Mikey. anyone call him Mike, or like, is it just always Mikey?
Yeah, it's always Mikey, or I may play with him and call him Michael, just to be funny. But that's just to keep a smile on everyone's face, because I'm one of the guys who love to laugh and love to crack jokes.
Who made up Mike? He was Beckman, right? Or
everybody? As far as I know, he came in as Mikey, so I just stuck with it.
I always see on Twitter, Coach Bellamy always calls his receivers the untouchables. I guess where does that come from?
Something we all made up in the summer. Just wanted to be the untouchables, just to show the world who we really are. Created a nickname and something that we want to leave as a legacy. Once I graduate and once those guys take over, just wanted to create something for the Illini wide receivers.
And you got a cousin who played here, right?
Yes, Cordell Scott.
Did you add any, was he like a motivation coming in to make you come to this school and wanted to play here?
Yeah, he actually went to transfer to Toledo with Coach Beckman. So he was telling me, yeah, just go there and ball out and do whatever you got to do. He said, don't worry about my situation and what he had going on. Just focus on what I had going on, and that's what I did.
You're from Cleveland. You big Cavs guy, or?
I'm a Cleveland fan, so LeBron, Cavaliers, Browns,
I'm so sorry.
Indians.
Browns.
Every Cleveland thing I represent.
You glad LeBron came back home?
Yes, I'm very proud.
No, I'm from Chicago, so what is it to do in Cleveland? I know Joe Noah made it real famous that Cleveland, I mean, I've never been there personally. What kind of like landmarks are there? What's kind of to do out there?
It's a lot of things. It's amusement parks, zoos. Just basically a regular type of big city, but of course we got all of those big sports. So it's a lot to do in Cleveland. It's hard to name some of the things. You may have to travel about 20 or 30 minutes, but it's a lot of things to do in Cleveland.
How far you got the Cavs going this year?
Winning it all.
Winning it all? No doubt?
No doubt.
I think our Bulls got something to say about that.
Well, we definitely will see. I'm pretty sure we faced y'all a few times this year, so I'm pretty sure we'll be ready. And we got the best player in the NBA on our team, so I'm ready to go.
You a Manziel guy? You like him? What's your take?
I like him. I believe he still has to grow. I mean, he just making the transition from college to the National Football League is huge. So I believe once he does get right, and the Browns will use him, because he is definitely a weapon and a very dangerous guy on the football field.
They kind of got your hopes up yesterday coming back.
Yeah, kind of hurts me just because we can't watch the Browns games down here. But I'm pretty sure once Manziel start and everything, then the Browns will always be on TV everywhere.
How long is it going to take before he starts?
It depends on how much Brian Hoyer does and the mistakes he makes, because if the Browns are winning with Hoyer, I'm pretty sure they're just going to keep Hoyer in.
All right, so this game next week against Washington, I mean, what do you guys kind of know about them? You played them last year at Soldier Field. But
very, very athletic, aggressive group, but I feel like we are very athletic and an aggressive group also. So I believe it will be a dogfight. Definitely not worried, but never underestimate your opponent. Respect every opponent. So just ready to go out there and have fun and do whatever is needed to come out with the W. So if I have to make that big catch again to score, then I will. I will do whatever. If I have to make a big block, I will do whatever I have to do.
And, you know, they beat you last year. Is that something you guys remember, or is that kind of something that fans talk about more so than the players?
We definitely remember that, because that could have changed our season around. We still had the power to control our season, but that game definitely could have turned our season around, and we definitely would have gave us much more confidence going into Big Ten play. So I believe this game is very important to our season. Probably will be the best team we played thus far, so it should be fun. As long as everybody's out there having fun and on the same page, making sure we're doing all the little things right, we should be good. We want to just work and practice, because if we work very hard in practice, then it will pay off for us. And that's something that we plan on doing. We don't plan on losing any game. I feel like any team should be that way. But we just want to go into this game real confident, and then coming back on the playing happy. That would be very special.
And what is your reaction to the Big Ten lately? I know it's been a rough week. Just what are your reactions behind the league with, you know, some of the teams falling, big teams falling?
honestly, as long as University of Illinois is winning, then I really can't complain as much.
Did you watch any of those games, Michigan State, Oregon, or any of that?
I watched a little bit of the Ohio State game just because that's my hometown and I know a few guys on that team. But other than that, I really didn't get a chance to look at any of the other games. But, of course, I'm cheer for my friends until I play them. But it was a tough week for the Big Ten this week. Hopefully we can bring the Big Ten back a W on our behalf.
Thanks a lot, man.
I appreciate it.
Our thanks to Justin Hardee, who spent time with our very own Torrance Sorrell and Stephen Bourbon. Got some good stuff there. Nice to hear from an Illini himself, because we can talk all we want, but they're the guys that are actually playing in the games and see firsthand what's going on. So he ended a little bit with how the Big Ten's been kind of faltering a little bit early on in the season here, and previewing a little bit of Washington. So I guess first and foremost, let's just discuss Illinois' next opponent, trying to go 3-0 here against the Washington Huskies.
I mean, I think it kind of goes without saying that Washington will be the best team that Illinois has faced all this year. They were preseason top 25. They struggled against Hawaii. They won 17-16. Struggled again last week with Eastern Washington winning 59-52, I believe. I think Eastern Washington's quarterback threw for about 7 touchdowns in that game.
It's decent.
So I really don't know what to think about Washington. I mean, on paper, Chris Peterson's in his first year from Boise State, so definitely probably see some trick plays. But I feel like both teams definitely have something to prove.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm kind of thinking that with this game, it's going to be one of these shootouts, I think, because as Washington showed in their last game against Eastern Washington, they gave up some points. Illinois, even though I'm buying the defense, they will give up points, folks. They will. I don't think that's a surprise. And I think, if you're looking at the offenses here, Washington lost a lot of guys from last season, but it doesn't seem to have affected them, at least if you're looking at their last game. And with Illinois, we know here that I think the fan base and people kind of know what they have. So I'm kind of anticipating a whole lot of points going up.
And you love those shootout games.
Yeah, I do. I said that last week too. So
yeah,
every game will be a shootout.
Literally, with this defense.
Yeah. No.
But Washington debuted a new quarterback in week 2, Siler Miles. He was serving a 1-game suspension. He came in. He's more of a running guy. I think they definitely had over 300 yards rushing as a team. So it's kind of be a conflicting styles between the two. Illini through the air.
A running team. That seems like a team that we could. The Illinois football team could take care of.
Yeah, we could not take care of it.
We would get run over.
Yeah, literally.
And again, just looking last year to this year, again, this is week 3 for Illinois, facing off against Washington. Again, played them last year at Soldier Field and lost. And then play them this year, week 3 again, both times 2-0. And a big week 3 game that kind of not makes or breaks the season, but it really sends you in really one drastically different direction than the other. I mean, Justin Hardee mentioned it. Last year, well, they played all right. Being 3-0 coming out of that and then coming back a bye week and then going to play Miami of Ohio and then going into Big Ten, that would have been a nice stretch there where they could have really made up some ground and, gotten maybe more than 4 wins on the year. So again, it's a big test, and we'll have to see too, because the Huskies allowed 573 yards to Eastern Washington last week, and so you look to that and say, boy, it'd be nice if the run can get going against that kind of bad defense, but you just never know. And even with their offensive line, you've seen a couple injuries here with Flavin. Don't know if he'll play this week. And Alex Hill also injured as well in the last game. So you saw Joe Spencer at center and a couple other guys shifted around. So it doesn't help when you're trying to get a running game going and you don't really have your top-tier offensive linemen. But it should be a fun one this weekend, and I think it'll be close. It just last year was decently close with 10 points, and you just think the way the two teams balance out of a struggling running game for Illinois facing off against a brutally struggling defense, you think maybe it can turn Illinois' way.
I just think the real kind of X factor is playing on the road. We talked about how new this Illinois offense is. How will they respond, in one of the toughest places to play, on a 2-hour jet lag? It's definitely, we're going to see a lot about this Illinois football team this weekend.
Exactly, and I mean, as much as I have enjoyed watching Wes Lunt play as a QB this season for 2 games in, I think that a lot of people are really going to see, on the road. I mean, this is a huge test for him and for the whole team of really what they're made of. And you said it already, but I think that a lot of the Illinois fan base will sort of know what they have in this team this year, because they could go to Washington this weekend and get blown out, and then people might be starting to say, well, they are who we thought they were. And and so it's going to be interesting for them, and I think it's going to be a great test for some of these for all the young guys and the vets too.
Well, on the other side, at Washington, I mean, this Chris Peterson's first year, like I said, they've been not impressive at all. Yes, they're 2-0, but by 1 point and by a touchdown. So you got to think they're looking to put together a statement win of their own. I mean, obviously this is probably a game on paper that they should win, but they haven't shown a dominant game yet. And as a preseason top 25 team, that you should be able to do that against a lower tier Big Ten team that everyone kind of thinks Illinois is.
Yeah, we'll have to just see how it plays out. But yeah, that road factor is going to be very, very difficult to overcome. It's not like you're just going to Indiana or somewhere close, going all the way west, a lot of travel, and you're stopping a couple places in between just to get there. And you're going to Seattle Seahawk, champ country. So they're big on their football, and it should be a really tough environment for Illinois to play in. We can go around the horn here and see what we think. Who's going to come out on top this weekend? Do we think the offense has enough in it on the road to put away this Husky football team?
I don't think so. I kind of see the kind of game where Illinois hangs around for a lot of it, but Washington ultimately goes ahead. I think I see Washington winning by maybe 2 touchdowns.
It's hard because I do think that Illinois has a legit shot in this one. But with that being said, I sort of think that I kind of agree with you. I think that they're going to hang around for sure. I think maybe even a little bit more than you might be predicting. I think it's going to be a pretty good game overall, but I sort of do think that on the road is going to end up being the thing that's going to take the Illini down in this one.
And being on the road really amplifies the mistakes that we've been seeing from this Illinois team. I mean, kicking the ball out of bounds multiple times, big penalties on third downs. You can't have those if you want any chance to win on the road, and that's only going to be amplified.
And plus, I mean, some throws that Lunt has made this year, the ones that maybe would be picked off in Big Ten play, I think that they'll start to see that now, even as soon as Washington, a team like Washington, even though their season has been all that impressive through 2 games, I think that you're going to start seeing some mistakes, like you said, kind of, be taken advantage of for Washington.
There's a whole another level of athlete. I mean, Western Kentucky's been D1 for 6 years. Obviously, Youngstown State is D2. I mean, Washington recruits with the best of them. Steve Sarkisian, their old coach, is an excellent recruiter. So, I mean, they're going to have athletes unlike anything Illinois has seen this year so far.
And you mentioned the kicking game, and while you don't think of that as a big phase of your team, it's been a little shaky. And a couple missed field goals, a couple kickoffs out of bounds when you aren't just accustomed to seeing that. And Beckman mentioned, hey, Zaleski's not really getting it done for us, and they're trying to see what they want to do. I don't know if any change will happen going into Saturday's game, but that's one of those elements that you don't really look at and think about in preseason on paper, which can really hurt you, and has given, at least in last weekend's game, Western Kentucky gave them good field position. I mean, it's a big difference, even though it's 15 yards from, 20 to the 25. So yeah. 25 to the 35, that gets you an extra push there and says, for Western Kentucky, we're going in the right direction already.
Especially with an incumbent kicker. You bring back Zaleski, you think he should be rock solid, even better than last year. Well, he's already gotten benched on kickoffs twice. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's something they're trying to do. It looks like they're trying to directionally kick, but if you can't do it, then he shouldn't be playing. Find someone that can.
I mean, Tim Beckman, I think we can all agree that he is a pretty positive, an upbeat guy, after wins or losses or whatever. But what he in his last post-game presser. The first 2 weeks really, he's not at all happy about the kicking situation. So if the team wants to see their coach get back to his upbeat self, at least in that end of the ball, they're going to need to make some changes.
And you just think, because you see the kicking game going away in the NFL and a little bit here, just the nature of where it is, directional kicking on kickoffs, if you just kick it out of the end zone, that's kind of all you really need to do right now in both of the leagues looking at it. So we're going to take a quick break here. We're going to come back and talk about the Ray Rice fiasco that has occurred today right after these quick messages. You're listening to Illini Drive on Champaign's Alternative, WPGU 107.1.
Hi, this is Dan Bernstein. And Terry Bors. You are listening to Illini Drive. Our motto is win. Whatever is necessary today.
Oh, Tim Beckman and Wint. If you remember last year, Illinois had the bracelets on. That was WIN, whatever is necessary. And when Beckman was trying to explain it, it was whatever is necessary today, which prompted our friends at the Score over there to ask if it was Wint. And Beckman never responded because I think he knew he was wrong and screwed up. But wouldn't you think if you had a bracelet that said win, it would just be win? That would be your motto. We want to win.
Well, it's you got to have the acronym.
I guess.
I thought it was widespread improvement now. They didn't like that one, I guess.
Sounds like a home improvement story. That'd be your motto on Lowe's.
They needed it.
So we're going to jump in here to the news of the day, which is Ray Rice and the Baltimore Ravens. So as you listeners may remember, Ray Rice, a few months back, had the 2-game suspension was announced by the NFL for having domestic violence issues with his then fiance in an elevator, and a lot of controversy surrounding the length of the suspension and how, a guy like Josh Gordon or certain other players have year-long suspensions for certain drug uses, but a player that has domestic violence issues was suspended 2 games. So there's been a lot of talk, a lot of controversy on that. And then today, TMZ surfaces with another video of the Ray Rice incident, and it was actually the security camera within the elevator that shows the complete video of Rice striking his then fiance, dragging her out of the elevator in a pretty gruesome manner, if you will. And we can tweet out the link to the video. It's online as the show goes on here. And right after that surfaced today, the Ravens a little while later released Ray Rice, and then the NFL has suspended him indefinitely for this season and beyond. So looking at this, I'm just kind of, in my opinion, curious. Is there any way the NFL didn't see this video when they were originally making the decision? I mean, the fact that the NFL and the police would have less power to obtain this video than TMZ is at least shocking to me. And so it's a really interesting case here, and kind of a weird one in the fact that, boy, if they had this video, had that evidence, and still made the 2-game decision, but now are reacting to the outcry today to then make the suspension longer, have the Ravens release him, it's a really fishy situation and really puts the NFL in question here on their whole processes.
Sorry,
no, please.
I think that there's a lot of questions kind of coming out of this that are, very confusing to me, that I kind of have angered me. I took to Twitter earlier today to share my opinion on it. But I think, and that was just sort of what was taking so long to just, do what ended up happening of essentially getting Ray Rice out of football, at least for this season, and most likely, I don't know what's going to happen, but most likely for his career, essentially, because that's what he did. I don't think any teams are going to want to take that on. It's ridiculous that and to answer your question, Joey, I absolutely think that the NFL had seen this. There's no way, at least, sure they may have said that they didn't, and that's what they did say. But the power that they have, there's no way that the TMZ, has more power to have access to that stuff. I think they did see it. I think that the fact that it even took a video to get this guy out of the league is kind of a joke. And it's also a little bit, on another level, it's a little bit sad that there had to be a video that was seen until where people, people have been angry about this for a while, but there was a 2-game suspension. I saw people drafting him in fantasy as though he were to come back. Why was it even being talked about that there was a chance? Why did it take this video of seeing a guy, knock really anybody out, but knock his fiance out and then drag her out of an elevator? Why did people need to see this for them to be like, now it's time for him to get out of here?
yeah, this whole situation is just disgusting to me. And if by any chance that the NFL didn't see this, which I think they did see it, because I've seen reporters have it both ways, where they report, oh, the NFL is investigating it, they've seen the video, when the 2-game suspension came out, that was kind of all the reports. Then everyone's kind of backpedaling and say, well, now the NFL is saying they haven't seen it. Who really knows? Either way, if they haven't seen it, that's just purely negligent, and that is just do your job, Roger Goodell. You're getting paid $40 million annually. Do your job. And secondly, if they have, to only get a 2-game suspension out of this when you have a guy, Josh Gordon, who got suspended for smoking pot for a year. And then you look at other guys, comparable suspensions. Alden Smith had 2 arrests, I think, with DUI and something at an airport. He's got 9 games. For Ray Rice to only get 2 games out of this, and then, I mean, the suspension today means nothing. And no team was going to pick him up after this. That's just the NFL trying to save face and crack down, even after everything's already been decided.
I just sort of wonder, what was the opposition that Roger Goodell, I mean, maybe you guys can answer this, maybe I just don't know, but what's the opposition that Roger Goodell is facing in why you don't just take care of these things? I mean, just say, you know what, Ray, you can't play this year until we get this figured out, and even then, we don't know what's going to happen. But to have the 2-game suspension, and then I know he did say that they didn't handle it correctly, but then to kind of still stick by that until today when this video comes out publicly, what was the problem there? Were there people, was there a camp of people who were saying, you know what, let's, it's a suspensional service time will come back, and that's what the rules are? I don't know.
Yeah, especially for a commissioner that I think him and his ego prides himself on being a hard-handed commissioner. And so that suspension made no sense to me. And I think they knew they were wrong when later they came out with the new domestic violence policy of first offense is a 6-game suspension, second is lifetime ban. I have that right? Is that right? Yeah. And right after that, Ray McDonald, defensive lineman of the 49ers, gets arrested on domestic violence. He started against the Cowboys, so he had a great game. But this happened, a week or 2 ago. Why is he still playing? You act like you're having this tough stance. You're making a stand. But then you still have guys that have been arrested, and he goes out and plays. I just don't get it from Goodell. He's handled this situation horribly. Just from the very beginning.
Probably as bad as you can. I just, yeah.
Real quick, can we play the Harbaugh audio? Do we have it? This is Jim Harbaugh from July when they first announced all the suspension things, just talking about the situation there.
It's not a big deal. It's just part of the process. We said from the beginning that the circumstances would determine the consequences. There are consequences when you make a mistake like that. I stand behind Ray. He's a heck of a guy. He's done everything right since. He makes a mistake, all right? He's going to have to pay a consequence. I think that's good for kids to understand that it works that way. That's how it works. That's how it should be. And we'll move forward, and the next guy will have to step up, and then Ray will be back, when the time comes. So it's not something that we're dwelling on, as you said. We're not worrying about it. We're just moving forward.
So, going off of that, it's so hard for me to believe that at that time they hadn't seen any kind of video like this, and then to come out and say it's not a big deal, Ray's a good guy. I don't know how you can justify that. It's just amazing to me that the Ravens as an organization just didn't come out any harsher, and now, today, everything's completely reactionary. It's amazing. I mean, you saw on NFL.com, someone tweeted, and forgive me, I forget who it was, there's the section under NFL Shop where you buy your jerseys. If you go to women's jerseys on the Baltimore Ravens side of things, Ray Rice women's jerseys discontinued from the website today. So why wasn't that done 2 months ago? It's amazing to me that there's this stall, as you guys mentioned, just not giving out the information that was necessary at the time and jumping on it, nipping it in the bud the day it happened. And it's just prolonged to now a point where the NFL looks stupid. It's completely going off of a reactionary basis versus being at the forefront and getting rid of this as it had. And you have to make an example of Ray Rice here that this is not allowed. In the era of social media and Twitter, everything's public now, and it puts these athletes in a little higher standard. But in this scenario, there's no room for, oh, he's an athlete, it's okay. This is a big deal.
And going to that Harbaugh quote that we just played, maybe I didn't hear this the first time that I'd heard that, but it's sort of ridiculous to me that he goes and he says, he goes and he talks about, the next guy will have to step up, and then he's still talking football and he's still talking depth chart and things like that.
It's deflecting.
Can these? I mean, I know it's not everybody, but that's kind of coach speak or whatever. But I think that's a big problem. Is that can you take a second from being a football coach and just think this guy? I guess let's say he hadn't seen even if he hadn't seen the video, he knows that something happened. And something that is absolutely unacceptable, but he's still let's see the next guy up and who's going to do that. And it may have just been a thing he just said just because he's used to saying that when even a guy goes down with an injury or whatever. But I don't know. I just think it's ridiculous that it seems like there's this aspect of sports, but I mean in this situation where it's football, it's like can you take a step back from the game and just be just have common sense about it? Well, why is everyone's common sense gone in these situations?
Well, I mean, just the NFL, going back to them, they try and promote all these new areas to expand. Obviously, football is king in America, and it's really not that close. But you saw during the season last year, they had the whole ad campaign about new women's apparel and everything. And for something like this, the way they've handled this situation, they have lost all respect with a very large portion of potential fans, and it's just truly unacceptable from a corporation, really. I mean, I don't know. I really don't even know what to say. It's just mind-boggling that they could mess it up this badly.
Yeah, and those initiatives you mentioned, and there were a couple more just in the think tank for them. They made, Red Zone channel you've had for years. You have the Fancy channel now that's new this year. They're also trying to create some sort of a extra channel on that list of NFL package where it'd be kind of like a view format because they were trying to cater to the women audience of the NFL. And it's such a... I guess it's such a double-edged sword because you're trying to put all these initiatives through and breast cancer awareness and women's programs for the NFL and apparel, but then you just don't come out and make a clear stance on this from day one. I don't know how you can, if you're a part of the women fan base of the NFL, I would find it very difficult to be able to stand up and be a supporter. And I know that's, for me to say that I'm not in the best position to understand that, and if you're a big NFL fan or of a team, it's very hard to kind of check that at the door.
Even if you're just like a human that has a
pulse.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's what's kind of disturbing to me about all of this is that this story comes out. It came out, and then the video comes out today. This all happens. They cut him. He probably. I don't know if you guys. I mean, I don't think he's going to play in the NFL again.
Can't imagine. They lost the locker room. Yeah.
The season was bad last year.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'd say that we can agree on that. But the thing is that as much as people want to go to Twitter and reporters and all these people and take their stance about how bad this was, which it was, and it's nothing on that side. But the disturbing thing to me is that people will still watch football, and Goodell will still make his money. And at the end of the day, as most stories like this, what ends up happening with these is they sort of get forgotten. And I understand that new, there had been with the new abuse things that had come in with the first offense. What was it? 6-game suspension, then a lifetime. Well, okay, great. But I think that the scary thing is that people will, it's not really, I don't see much changing after this because things like this have happened before and people forget about them and it's football. And I don't know, maybe that point is a little bit lost, but I just think that.
Well, that's why it's difficult is because, okay, if we all agree here this is an atrocious thing that happened, but are we not going to watch football on Sunday?
Yeah.
That's what makes it so difficult. It's the same thing with the Washington Redskins controversy. There's, a couple of broadcasts, other people taking a stand saying, we won't use this name, we're not going to refer to this name or support this team in certain areas. But people are still going to watch the games on Sunday. That's why it's very hard in these big corporate football and sporting worlds to boycott something because at the end of the day, while this is a big fight that needs to be fought, it is a big issue that needs to be dealt with, the league's still going to make its millions and billions of dollars from people, and including us, that are still going to watch the game, still going to pay to go to these games.
And it's weird because, you kind of get the impression that Goodell, under everything else, knows that whatever decision is made, it won't really impact all that much. I mean, I guess that the strides that they hope to make with the women watching, and becoming football fans, all this kind of stuff, that obviously is going to take a hit. But if it's not going to make a big difference, having eventually making a decision where he can't play football again, if that's whatever happens with that, then why don't you just why didn't he just do this in the beginning? Because I feel like that. Why would that decision be any more negative than what ended up happening here? Just starting earlier on.
And this kind of my last point. I know we're kind of running out of time here, but this is just kind of continues on more of a disturbing trend for the NFL. I mean, if you look at their players in recent years, it seems like arrests, suspensions, fines, these things are all going up and trending in the wrong direction. Whereas you look at a league like the NBA, if you 10 years ago, the NBA, they had the malice at the palace, the whole view of NBA players, they had no dress code, and the view of NBA players was very, looked down upon as professional sports. Well, now, I mean, with the way Adam Silver's handled, obviously they've got a lot of problems with this Hawks owner and the Donald Sterling situation, but they've made strides to where now, I think, they don't have nearly the problems off the court that NFL players do, and it seems like that's a trend for NFL players, especially in recent years.
Yeah, the NFL's really digging themselves a hole here and pissing off a lot of people, and especially we even saw today, media-wise, all these guys that cover it, and, I know Adam Schefter spoke this morning, and a lot of people put him in the category of, the NFL's, deputy right-hand man, even though he doesn't really work for them, and he was angry this morning at the fact that the NFL, in his mind, was almost, lying to them, and it wasn't really truthful on the issue. And real quick, because I know we only have about 3 minutes left, about the issue of all this in terms of technology and social media as well. And what I find fascinating is, a lot of people say, be careful on the Twitter sphere, be careful where you are in public, because everything can be used to come back against you. And while people use it as a cautionary tale, I think it's also important that we have that kind of stuff in place to really show the truth about some of these people and their antics. What happens in the privacy of your own home is what happens, and people don't know it. But the fact that it's happened in the public sphere, well, it's not a good thing that it happened. It sheds some light on a player who was living in the limelight of being a stud athlete, a top running back, Super Bowl champion, to what kind of person he seems to be. And the one example I think of here is a guy, Bobby Hull with the Blackhawks, and Hall of Famer, most revered Blackhawk in probably all of their history, goal scoring, what have you. But he was known to be a big-time womanizer and had a lot of domestic violence issues under his playing time. But because it happened so long ago, it wasn't really recorded, everyone knew it was going on. But it seems like that's kind of been pushed to the wayside because those video sources and mediums like that didn't exist. And now because the Hawks have won 2 cups in a few years, he's come back to the forefront of Hawks legends and glory. And so I think that's just something important to kind of leave with, that you just got to remember there's more to these guys than you think. And while that was kind of shoved under the carpet, the nice thing about what these cameras have done is really kind of expose some guys that really shouldn't be in the positions they are in, making the kind of money, being the faces of these franchises, because they really don't deserve it.
It holds people accountable.
Right.
The biggest thing. I totally agree.
And what kind of strikes me about the Hawks case is that, he went out to actually admit that he did it. It just seems fishy to me, just admitting. And the whole Donald Sterling thing, that took literally 6 months to really get to the bottom of it. And then the guy from the Hawks, the owner, just comes in and I did this. Do you guys think it's probably a publicity stunt?
I think he's trying to do preemptive damage control.
Yeah.
Like Joey was talking about, that will get out eventually. So rather get out now and sell the team and, frankly, make your money, rather than just have the NBA forcibly remove you after this. Because Adam Silver's shown he's not messing around when it comes to that kind of stuff. So I think it's just, kind of a PR move.
Yeah, a lot of interesting stuff to talk about, a lot of different angles, and the impact how all this social media and technology, as well as just the athletes themselves, have on all these leagues, because the way everything goes now, it's incredibly interactive with everyone. So it's interesting to see how all this will play out. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Covered a lot, and I know we could talk for 5 more hours about this topic and many others. But we'd like to thank Urbana Public Television, which will re-air this broadcast Wednesday at 9 p.m., and they'll do that every week as well. We thank you, the listener, and everyone who interacted with the show, both texting, tweeting, listening. We thank you, and please share your thoughts at Illini Drive throughout the weekend as rest of... this show goes on for another probably 30 seconds until Torrance yells at me to get off the air. So just, please continue interacting. I know we go off the air. We're not done. So we'd like to thank producer Torrance Sorrell, social media guru Jeff Omer. If news breaks after we're done, dailyillini.com will have it all for you, as well as the Twitter handles at Illini Drive, at DI_sports, and at the DI Sports Live for live sports tweeting. And as we look to Wednesday, one of the big news and notes, and then we'll come off here, is Jalen Brunson, Illini top target recruit, making his decision between Illinois and Villanova on Wednesday. So while we're not on the air, we will still be covering it like crazy in case he chooses Illinois. I know we're re-aired on Wednesday, so we'll miss it by a little bit, but we'll surely send UPTV some news and notes on whatever happens. Maybe we'll add some stuff in to see what happens. For Stephen Bourbon and Sam Sherman, I'm Joey Gilman, and remember, this is your home on the way home. For Illini Sports and Champagne's Alternative, WPGU 107.1. We'll talk to you next Monday at 6. Thanks again.